Hi there, it's Karen, and I'm here with Whiskey Sour, and I'm so happy to be doing this blog because I just got over my half an hour anger fit that I had. Man, was I mad. God, I was so mad. I had the hiccups, and these things infuriate me like nothing in my life, and if you get them, now I've heard of people who just have them, perpetually, and that's ridiculous. You need to go to a doctor. But I've had them for about half an hour, and I kept wanting to do my blog, and it's just like, okay, I got, stuff to do in my day here, and these hiccups again are ruining my life. I've got it patched out that maybe between 8 and 10, 8, to go high, 10% of my life ruined by hiccups. Seriously ruined. So mad. I don't get mad at much anything. Those things just infuriate me. So, I'm happy to be on camera now, hiccup free. And then it feels like you've had a heart attack or something, like just your whole chest feels like, that's violent. There's certain things your body does that are very violent. That's one of them. It's just awful. Anyway, so that's over with. Can't allow it to ruin one more second of my life. I had a girl this morning who sent me a really, really sad email, and she says that nothing really was going on in her life that was that bad, and here I am complaining about hiccups. But nothing was really going that bad. She just felt worthless, and that was the word she used, was worthless. And I hate seeing that from somebody, that they think that their life is worthless or has no meaning. And so, I had a bit of a chat with her to see what was going on, and there was a number of things, but, there's always the job, career, money, all those things, but for her it just felt like just the, not even so much how she viewed herself, self-worth, she just really felt like she wasn't contributing to anything, that she felt like her kind of day in and day out was kind of mundane and nothing really exciting going on. So she just felt worthless, and that was the word she used. And when you grab a word like that and you think your life is worthless or has no meaning, it can lead to a lot of really bad areas of thinking. So it's something that I think should be addressed. But it's funny because not long after that, I always do my kind of feel-good reads where I try to find a story or something that feels really good in my day. And I read, it was an article that came from the Washington Post about the burrito man. And I want to share this story with you because it really, I was able to gain some perspective. And I also forwarded it to her. And I haven't heard back from her yet, but hopefully it will touch her as well. So I thought I'd read it to you guys. For almost 20 years, he was there, a little guy in a metal cart, selling rice and bean burritos at 17th and K Streets, northwest on Farragut Square. He was there in all the weather, during uptimes and downturns, a dependable rock in the rapids of life in downtown Washington. Until suddenly this week, he wasn't, and a busy neighborhood paused to realize that it was a pretty big man who'd been doing that little job. Tuesday, when the hungry emerged from their marble lobbies in place of Guardado's cart, they found a hand-drawn sign posted by his brother-in-law announcing that the burrito man had suffered a heart attack and died a few days earlier. He was 48. A man in a tailored suit read the words, and then he touched his open mouth and lowered his head into his hand. Two women hugged, one crying openly. They came to this cart at least once a week, and they usually were together. And the one girl said, "No, oh my God," cried Pat, as she stopped in her tracks. She had bought countless cups of coffee from the cart that was no longer there. "I'd like to talk about him, but I don't think I can right now," said Robert Tigner, who was a lawyer for a professional association across the street, his voice breaking as he read the notice. All day they came, lawyers and interns, lobbyists and vagrants, working folks who had made Guardado a part of their routine, suddenly realizing that the burrito guy had found his way into their hearts. "I guess we became friends." "We did become friends," Tigner said later by phone. The lawyer marveled that he'd spoken with Guardado almost every single day for 10 years. Sometimes for a few minutes, sometimes for much longer. We talked about kids and soccer, his two loves, in that order. Judy Sheehan worked a few blocks away at the U.S. Conference of Mayors offices. As soon as a friend called her to tell her about the poster, she went to Carlos's corner, as many called it, and joined in the spontaneous side street mourning. "I was hugging people that I didn't even know, faces I recognized from Carlos' cart," she said. "We cried together. This tore a real hole in our office. Like, it's crazy how many people this is affecting. Tigner and Sheehan were two of almost 100 people who attended a visitation for Guardado on Tuesday night. So then not only did they mourn that, they went to the funeral. Many were downtown office workers, connected by nothing other than their acquaintance with a cheerful vendor. Cheerful. Sheehan, who started nearly every morning with a stop at the cart for coffee and a chat that would sometimes last 20 minutes, made a study of Guardado's wide appeal. He kept people coming back by recalling not only their food preferences, so he remembered them, but also the names of their children and standings of their sports teams. So he knew all these personal things about these people. Workers who had been transferred away would come find him on their visits back. He once got a postcard from a customer traveling in Africa, and it was addressed, Carlos Burrito Cart, corner of 17th and K. You kind of hoped that would get there, right? When he told you he had hoped you would have a good day, he really meant it. You know, it's like, that's something that we say to people, right? Not all of us mean it. It just passes the time. I don't think he had any idea the impact that he had on people. Actually, Guardado often did speak of the impact his customers had on him. Cool, right? According to his wife, Carmen, a secretary at Montgomery County Public School headquarters, his own routine was brutal. He'd get up at 4 o'clock, a drive from Germantown to pick up his cart at a downtown warehouse by 6, set up on the corner with his massive coolers deployed and the beans simmering by 7 o'clock. So he's got the beans all set to go by 7. But he came home filled with all these stories he plucked from the endless parade of humanity that marched by his window. She said every day he'd come home and tell me, Carmen, they love me. And she said that their children, Allison, who's 19, and Matthew, who's 14, made their own final pilgrimage to the corner where Guardado lived so much of his life. The people in the city there were his family too, and we shared him with them. He came illegally to the United States in 1981 as a 17-year-old boy who was fleeing an El Salvador war, and it was very dangerous there. He told them how he had one cousin who had died in his arms, and he discovered the body of an uncle. For years he then would work as a painter, and eventually he gained his legal residency. In 1990, paying in installments, he bought a hot dog cart licensed for Farragut Square. So he really worked hard to make it legit and make it legal and everything. Soon he changed his menu to burritos, which put him years ahead of the food cart boom the city is now enjoying. He put out a basket for people to pay by the honor system. Wink. So he wouldn't have to handle money in his kitchen, and found himself a career. If he looked lonely, an isolated figure in a steamy cart, customers soon learned that his life was very full. The soccer prowess of his children, along with their academic achievements, were known to hundreds of diners. When he brought Allison to take your daughter to work day a few years ago, word spread as though a celebrity had been sighted. It was really cool seeing them together, recalled this lady named Abba, who was a regular from the Families Against Mandatory Minimums, which is this nearby advocacy group. He was just beaming. He meant that the cart to be a stop. He meant for the cart to be a stop on the way to a proper restaurant. But years turned into decades, and the income was enough to buy a house and later send Allison to the University of Maryland, where she is now a sophomore. His talk of opening a restaurant had faded in recent years. I think he was content. He always talked about the cart being a wonderful window on the world, and that he learned more on that corner than most people do in a lifetime. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met in Washington. Such an amazing article on so many levels. Here's a guy who just was content. It's just the feeling of contentment and feeling like his life had some worth and some meaning. And talk about struggles, right? We talked about this the other day in the Do You Feel Like the Black Sheep with the James Abar interview. I was talking about just the struggles that make something beautiful. And I don't think it's entirely possible to have something truly beautiful inside and out without these kinds of struggles, like what the butterfly has to go through as a caterpillar. And, you know, this is a man who worked really, really hard and had been through some brutal stuff in his own country, came here, did it right, sent his girl to college, or to university, and came home excited. I love that he'd come home excited, you know, like saying how much he felt like he was touching people. So You know, this girl I was talking to this morning who said that her life doesn't feel worthwhile. I really would question how you are measuring your worth. I think that's the big thing is it because of your friends? Is it because of your coworkers? Is it because of money? And what if the thing that you're really good at, or the impact that you can make, or your purpose isn't glamorous? And I think you know, maybe girls struggle with this a little bit more with the glamour side of things. Men might struggle more with what is their worth as far as maybe being the breadwinner or things like that. And that is such a huge generalization, because of course I know men and women who do not judge their worth by that in any way. But you know, I think with this girl, if you're not as glamorous as the girl who sits next to you in class, if your life doesn't seem as glamorous as the woman you work with, that's all of a sudden you're using a different measuring stick to measure your own self-worth. And I don't think you should be using the measuring stick of anybody around you. Nobody. I think the way that you measure your self-worth is its own stick. You know, you make that stick, you measure with that stick, and your self-worth is all up to you. I really believe that. So it's just about whether we can find that happiness there. And you know what? We don't know when our life will end. None of us do. There are people who are taken from this earth when they're 1 day old, and there are people who are taken from this earth when they're 100 years old. And we do not know when our time will end. And I don't think we should think about that stuff. But we really don't know. And this burrito man's life ended at the age of 48. And I just wonder, should he have waited any longer in his life to find contentment? You know, should he have waited till everything was amazing? Because think about it, being a burrito man, getting up at 4 a.m., having those beans simmering by 7, that's hard work. It's not glamorous work. I'm sure he had really bad weather. Like, think about Washington weather. We're not talking Florida here. Think about Washington weather and all the things that it can go through. Not glamorous. So I don't think he waited for contentment to come. He just kept working really hard and obviously had his own measuring stick. So I also encourage you guys, if you do feel like your life is not worthwhile, start today by making your own measuring stick. And then start measuring your life by that stick only, not by what you see around you. Alright? So, thought I'd share that with you today. From Whiskey Sour and I, we'll talk to you soon, okay? Rock on.